Hello, hello. This is Alicia from Quick and Delish. Welcome. I went to the farmer's market earlier today. It was my first time going to the farmer's market since the pandemic started, and I kind of just held off because I wasn't sure if it was necessarily something that was fun, that it would be worth it, or what have you. And so it was crowded as I anticipated, similarly, like as crowded as it normally is, basically on a Sunday morning from my experience. And the stands were definitely farther apart, but there were definitely a lot of people, and not as much social distancing as I had anticipated. But that's how grocery stores are. People are everywhere. And so it's just like, I was thinking the whole time whether or not I thought that this was fun and if it was worth it. And in the end, it was. I felt like what I got was worth it, and I was happy. So let me show you a little bit about what I got. So I love getting fresh berries from the farmer's market when I can. But I usually only will get berries from the farmer's market a couple times a year. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe 6 times. That's more than a couple times. But so I'll stock up on frozen berries around this time until, maybe like October. And because what I like to do is I get a ton of blackberries. Check these babies out. Some of these are gigantic. I'm trying to find a gigantic one. What? This is like, I don't know, my measurement is a little off, but maybe I want to go with 1.5 inches or pushing almost 2 inches. Anyway, so I washed these blackberries when I got home, and I put them on the sheet tray with a kitchen towel, clean kitchen towel, and they're drying. So I took them out of the container one at a time and placed them on the kitchen towel so they'll dry completely. And then I'm gonna take the kitchen towel away and then put them directly into the freezer. And so as soon as I finish this video, that's what I'm gonna do. So taking the kitchen towel away, put them in the freezer just like this. And then either before I go to bed tonight or tomorrow morning, I'll put them in a freezer bag. And then I'll have frozen blackberries. And so that's pretty cool. So I also, when I buy berries in general, this is what my blackberries look like, or this is the container, an example of what type of container my blackberries look like when I got home. So you guys know that berries are super squishable. So I got some fresh blueberries as well. So I'm going to do the same thing with the blueberries that I did with the fresh blackberries. I'll reserve some to eat in the next couple days, but I can't. I'm one person and I can't eat all these berries by myself, but I like to have a good stock of fresh fruit, whether or not they're frozen or fresh or dried or freeze-dried or whatever. So I like to have variety because they have different purposes, and always having a backup in your kitchen for options is super helpful, right? So I'm going to wash these blackberries and freeze them just like I did the blackberries. It's the same plan. So the reason why I put them in these containers at the farmer's market is the pint containers, it's just super hard to transport squishy fruits. And they're expensive, and so I figured out a way to transport squishy fruits more safely. So if I get plums, I'll put them in a container like this. Sometimes if I remember, I'll bring a kitchen towel to give them a little cushion. And so it's just really sad when you get home from the farmer's market and tomatoes or peaches or plums that are like ripe, they're like squishy. And so I tend to not buy very much of the squishy fruits and vegetables because mostly fruits. There's an added level of stress. Also, because I don't drive, because I'm low vision or legally blind, but am able to ride a bicycle in San Francisco, I commonly ride my bike to the farmer's market. And so I need containers to put my food in my panniers, my bike panniers, so that when I transport my food home, that nothing gets squished. So I was really excited to figure that out many years ago. And so you don't want to wash your berries until you actually use them, or go ahead and freeze them. Like wash them and freeze them, wash them and eat them. But once you wash your fruits and vegetables, they start degrading. And so that's just really important to know. So I wanted to show you how I'm going to use my fresh strawberries that I got. I got one basket of fresh strawberries and I put them in this container at the farmer's market. And so I washed these, and as you'll see, I took the stems off. So what I have here is a very full pan of my what is this called? Baked oatmeal bars. And I added frozen peas. Some of you guys might already know that I love adding frozen peas to my oatmeal bars because they add more protein and a little bit more fiber. And so I just get frozen peas, even though they're totally in season right now. I like getting frozen because it's more convenient and I can have them all the time. And I use peas for lots of different things. And you might see that in some of my recipes. Okay, so this is a tray of my oatmeal bars, and as soon as this video is over, I'm going to pop them in the oven. The oven's already preheated at 375, and they take about 45 minutes to bake. Okay, so I've done this with frozen strawberries, and I used to be, like we're judgmental in general as a human, we're judgy in general, right? And so I used to think that frozen strawberries were lame. Because I tasted a couple bags of them and I just thought they were lame. They didn't taste good. Like, what? They just don't taste good. Why do people like them? I was super judgy against frozen strawberries. And then I would look at them and I would think, oh man, if only I knew if I could use frozen strawberries somehow, right? And so one day I was making baked oatmeal bars and I was like, oh, I'm going to use frozen strawberries, see if they work out, right? And so I put frozen strawberries just like I do on this tray. And as strawberries or berries bake, right, the flavors, the juices, right, they leave the fruit and then they go into the bars and they concentrate their flavors. So oftentimes I'll do like one frozen peach wedge or slice and then one frozen strawberry. And then you might be able to see a picture if you go to my Instagram profile, that you'll see pictures of that kind of bar. So with a frozen peach wedge or slice and then a frozen strawberry. But so today I'm going to use fresh strawberries because these are super ripe and they need to be processed. And I have a couple berries on my hand. So these are going to bake, and then I'm going to freeze like 3/4 of these. And then use them over the next 3 weeks, which is super cool. Okay, so in order to do this, and the reason why I like to put fruit on top is, one, it's a different type of fruit, because I did put some frozen blueberries, just like store-bought frozen blueberries in there. But I didn't put as much as I would normally if I was just doing blueberries. I don't know if this is confusing. But so I like to have a little bit of fruit in the base. And there are some, the sweetener in these bars is a very ripe bananas. So my original recipe in the video down there below has maple syrup. But I learned, as I do with many of my recipes over time, I keep working on them and figure out how to eliminate, like, maple syrup's not a big deal. There's a 1/4 cup in the recipe. But I was like, oh, if I use super ripe bananas, then I don't need to use maple syrup in the recipe. Sometimes when I heat the bar up, I will drizzle some maple syrup on top of it. And then you're more likely to taste it when it's on top of the bar than if it's inside. So I thought that was a win. Okay, so I'm just going to show you what these look like. So the purpose of the strawberries, besides adding some more flavor, is to mark the bars of where you're going to cut them. And so I was just taking off the greens and then removing the stem. Removing the stem. Cool. And then marking them. Okay, so here I have, you can always move these over a little bit. And if it seems like it's unfair and you want to add, another fruit, I would probably just add a small. I can steal a couple of these blackberries. I don't know. The smallest one maybe needs a friend. Okay, cool. It's good to have different varieties of fruits in these bars for flavor. So I like having the fruit on top because it marks where you're going to cut the bars after they're baked. So the blueberry bars, when it's just frozen blueberries mixed up in the actual mixture, it's harder to cut bars that are the same size. And so having it this way, I will get approximately, or not approximately, 15 bars, 12, 13, 14, 15, I can count. 15 bars for me. And so I actually, because I had like 5 smallish bananas that were super ripe, I added a little bit more oats. So I did like, for this recipe, I think I did like 5 cups of oats. The original recipe is 4 cups. And then I added the frozen peas. And so that's why this is a very full pan, so I can get more servings. And I love to push the limits on my pans. Like when I make egg frittata, I love filling it up to the top, so then I'll get like, 8 servings sometimes, because I'm like pushing the limits by adding more vegetables and more egg, and then I'll have like thicker servings, but then I'm able to cut more pieces per serving, which is super awesome. And then it doesn't take that much more time to make a little bit more in that way. And you can freeze servings in the future, which is super awesome, making your meal planning easier, right? We're all about simplifying meal planning in any way possible. So I wanted to give you a couple tips on, or recommendations, my 2 favorite brands of oats. So I like the Trader Joe's oats specifically for this recipe or in general. So I'll buy like a couple bags of these oats and keep them around sometimes if I'm not sure. So if I have a whole pan of bars in my freezer, then I don't need to stock up on oats really. But I'll get like 2 bags and then keep one in the freezer and then one on the shelf. And then this is another company that I really like that does that ships their products. It's Edison Granary, and they're really cool because I've never experienced the oats smell kind of nutty. They smell tasty, and I've never actually had the thought of like, oh yeah, raw oats smell really good, like that smells really good. Anyway, so this is ready to go, and I'll pop that in the oven in a second. And I wanted to show off a couple other things that I got from the farmer's market, and I was super excited that I saw this company called Bounty, like the Bounty, the farm Bounty, and it sounds like it's like a farm box, and you can go pick it up from the farmer's market. And so I thought it was a little stressful going to different stands and checking out what they have, because I can't necessarily see I can't see that well. And so in order for me to see better, I need to come close. And I reflected on how I could approach the situation better. Next time I can take pictures from a distance of the stand and see what they're selling. Because, yeah, so that's my plan. So I wanted to show you a couple other things that I got. So I got a bunch of celery. Isn't this cool? So I'm going to use this whole thing. The leaves are totally usable. They are a little bit on the bitter side, so I use them like I would sauteed greens. So we'll do that. And then I got 2 bunches of beets. So beets and their greens. And these greens actually look pretty good. And then, so I'm going to saute these greens in some garlic and olive oil, salt, pepper. Just keep them simple. And then add them to some of the things that I'm making. Like I made a curry chicken with chickpeas earlier today with some of the celery leaves for my lunch. So I'm going to add some greens to that, and I'm going to freeze some of those servings of that. And then I'm going to roast the beets. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to roasting the beets today, but I might get to it later on this week. I got a couple of red onions. And I actually found that shopping at the farmer's market during this time of pandemic was a little bit less stressful once you get to the stand, because then you just tell the person what you want, and then you go through the process, and so it's more individualized. It's similar to when we're waiting, like the cashier situation in the grocery store. I find that it's less stressful once I get to the cashier, that we each have our own individual time, and then there's less of this feeling of being rushed. That's what I experience. And also, I'm also like mentally preparing myself and not letting myself get stressed out. It is what it is, and the better we accept the situation and not fight it, and do what we can to prevent this thing from getting spread. That's all we can do, really. I got a bunch of broccoli, and so the stems are kind of big, and so I'm going to cut the outside out and then off. I'm just going to cut 4 sides off to peel the stems, and then cut those up. And the stems are usually sweet and delicious, and a lot of times people avoid the stems, but I think they're really good. So that's super cool. I think I'm just going to, I'll either roast the broccoli. Yeah, I'll probably roast the broccoli because it's super easy. And then I got a bunch of carrots, and I had them tear off the carrot tops for me because I wasn't going to use them. Haven't found a good recipe for carrot tops yet. We'll see. Maybe I'll grow up and learn how to eat carrot tops in the future. So I'm super stoked about these carrots because I'm going to add them to, I got 2 pounds of beef from a farm ranch at the farmer's market, and it wasn't that expensive. Actually, I was surprised for grass-fed. So I'm going to use half of it to make kind of like a chili, and then freeze that. And then the other half of it, I'm just going to do like some of these vegetables, like the celery and the carrots, kind of keep it simple. So I have more options to add, like some of the beet tops with it. And then I have some beans as well. So some of the ground beef will turn into just like the ground beef with beans. And then like I have some kidney beans that are already cooked. And then some carrots, onions, celery, and then beet tops. And then the broccoli. That's what the broccoli is for, is with that rest of the beef. And so that was my adventure, and I was glad I went to the farmer's market because it was fun to get berries, and they're always fun. And they're in season. Seems like berries are in season a lot of the times in California nowadays. So a couple tips in terms of farmer's market purchasing, buying fresh berries. You know, it's kind of stressful once you get berries. You have to like eat them up before they go bad, and they're really expensive. And so I like to pick through the berries so that I get rid of the ones that are bad, so the bad ones don't make the other fresh ones go bad, because that's always a bummer. And that just takes like a minute of your time to go through really quickly to make sure you didn't get any bad ones, or eat the ones that are like so ripe that if you don't eat them today, they're going to go bad tomorrow. So don't take on my stress about, you know, these ripe foods. You know, some vegetables like celery last for like 3 weeks if you store it properly. And then other foods like berries, just like super perishable. So they gotta get processed into frozen or a cooked situation if they are super ripe. All right, well, if you enjoyed this video, hopefully it wasn't too much. Please subscribe and share, and I would love to hear any comments of your experience going to the farmers markets, you know, during pandemic. I've heard some farmers markets are more organized. I had to look for the hand sanitizer at the farmers market that I went to. It wasn't like super obvious. And others are maybe little, whatever, they are what they are. So great source of fresh produce. Check out the Bounty, the company Bounty. They're doing the farm fresh boxes that you could pick up at the farmers market. And I might post the link. I need to look up the website myself. And I was thinking, instead of picking the produce up from each of the individual stands, that maybe I'll just try that produce box and then pick up the box once a week. And then that would help me simplify the whole time management situation of going to the farmer's market. Because I'm not, I'm more about getting the fresh stuff than the whole like staring at the ingredients. For now. So cool. So I would love to hear your experience at farmers markets, what you're doing for cooking nowadays, and to be continued. This is Alicia from Quick and Delish, and thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Until next time, until next time, this is Alicia. Awesome. Happy July. Happy July.